Hey YouTube, what's up? It's dieselfrost here. What I got going on in the background is a little TDM, and it's some of the games I did pretty well in. Now, what I'm going to talk about today isn't directly related to the game. It's actually in response to a video Boogie2988 put out, talking about data caps and how they do affect the gaming industry. I wanted to expand on that a little bit and talk about net neutrality. A lot of people have probably heard about it in the news. There's been some court decisions. But I think a lot of people don't realize how important this issue is. Right now, the way it stands in the United States, our internet is provided by private companies. Time Warner, Cox Cable, Verizon. Most of these companies have a franchise agreement in the area, and many of us only have one choice of provider. For example, in my area, Time Warner Cable is the only available internet, high-speed internet that is. I do not have access to Verizon. They say they're coming in the area as well, but they're not coming in very quickly. And why this is important is, I think without true net neutrality, when the internet is being provided by private companies without heavy government regulation, it inhibits the ability for smaller companies to really make innovations. We need to stop thinking of internet as a service that's provided. We need to start thinking of it as our roadways. Right now in the United States, you or I could go hop in a car, assuming we're legally allowed to drive, hop in a car, go down the roadway. Some roadways do have tolls, which are supposed to go towards the maintenance of the roadway due to their heavy use. But in general, our roadways are free. In the past, toll roads were very common, where if you wanted to use the road, you had to pay a fee, which usually went to some sort of baron or the person who owned the property that had the road. Our government decided that roads are government property. It is vital for the growth of the nation, industrially, financially, and just as a society to allow citizens movement from one place to another. We need to think of internet in the same way. The internet is a road for information. You and I don't necessarily drive down it with a car, but it's how we pass information from one person to another. And think about it like this. If private companies own the roads, they can start dictating how those roads are used. And this is just kind of a crazy example, but to give you an idea of what can happen. Let's say McDonald's, the fast food chain, got into the business of road ownership, and they bought all the roads in New York State. Now, McDonald's isn't going to charge you or I necessarily to go down the roads. They may say, look, we're just doing it, we're investing, we're going to make our money in other ways off the roads, advertisements, whatever. But they control the roads. They get to say what goes down the road, what speeds you can travel at, how you get there. And this applies to the internet directly because this is what our ISPs, our internet service providers, do. So McDonald's owns the roads in New York State now. And McDonald's decides, if you're shipping to Burger King, we're not going to allow you to use the roads. Next thing you know, Burger King can't get any supplies in and they're shut down. Now McDonald's has a monopoly in New York for burger fast food joints. And of course you can make the argument, the government would step in and wouldn't allow that. There are ways around that. McDonald's could say, you can only take certain routes at certain hours. Or your trucks can only go at a certain speed unless you pay us extra money. And a lot of this may seem absurd, but it's happened in the past. Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, a famous, a lot of people refer to him as robber baron, industrialist. One of the big things was he started the Standard Oil Company. One of the things he did when he was owned the Standard Oil Company, is there's a lot of evidence that he was in collusion with the railroads, as well as certain other oil companies, to get deals and discounts on shipping. Well, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but basically these little cartels and these trusts allowed Rockefeller and other people who teamed up with Rockefeller to get discounts of up to 50% off shipping, as well as raise the price for the competition, which means that they could offer their products at an unfair low price. Anybody who's taken history class knows that the late 19th century, monopolies were a big deal. I mean, we even have a board game based off the whole monopoly system. And that's why the Sherman Antitrust Act was enacted back in 1890. It was basically designed to help eliminate monopolies and trust and help promote fair business practice. Now, today, we're looking at the internet. And there's already been some cases of internet providers giving preference to other companies. For example, Comcast was caught basically slowing down any internet connection when you were using a peer-to-peer service. Their argument, of course, was, well, we're trying to stop illegal downloads, but it just wasn't jiving. The real risk is that if you look at our internet service providers right now, most of these companies also provide your cable service, your cable TV. So they have to provide the roadways for their direct competition. I myself, along with my wife, we become what's called cord cutters. We use Netflix, Hulu, Crackle, and other video services to get our video entertainment. Cable prices were just too high. Now, without true net neutrality laws, if our company, Time Warner Cable, decided that they wanted to not allow Netflix to broadcast, they could slow our Netflix connection down. They could just disallow it altogether, because a lot of the rulings have said, well, net neutrality really isn't needed. And I think it's really important for the average person to really understand what that means. So now, legally, our cable company not only is our only real outlet for internet connection, they get to say where we get our video entertainment from. They can publicly go, well, you have other choices. You could always get Netflix. But really, we can't, if we can't use our internet to get Netflix. And some people say, well, this is preposterous. But if you follow the tech news, Netflix is already fighting a lot of ISPs right now because they want to offer a higher video quality than they do already. They want to give you 1080p, and also we're looking at Ultra HD, which is just around the corner. So we're looking at huge amounts of data transfer, and the internet companies right now are refusing to invest in infrastructure that would allow it, and some of them have flat out said, well, we're not going to do it. There's been also talks of certain internet companies giving preferential treatment and bandwidth to different websites and web services. You know, perhaps Microsoft would say to Cox Cable, another large internet provider, we'll pay you, we'll give you a fee to allow Microsoft network, Xbox Live, to get preferential treatment and bandwidth over the PS4 network. Now, suddenly in an area, well, people have trouble with the PS4 network, they may move to a Microsoft Xbox. There's a lot of things that can happen when these companies are, in essence, unregulated in what they can allow and not allow. And there's a couple big reasons for this. There's no competition. They really are a monopoly. There are some areas where you may be able to get a 5 meg upload through a cable connection, and maybe if you're lucky you get DSL. There are very few areas where you have access to 3 or more true high-speed internet providers. The other thing you have to look at is excuse me, losing my train of thought. One thing you also have to look at is here in the United States, our internet speeds are actually really pitiful. Even 8 or 9 years ago, I was doing video game testing with some people from Europe, and they already had gigabit internet speeds. We have nothing like that. If you have a 25 meg download speed here in the United States, that's considered a really good internet connection. And realistically, it's not. Yes, the United States has its own issues when providing these sort of speeds. We're geographically a huge country, which means we have to have a huge infrastructure. My personal belief is that our internet really needs to be government funded in some way, or at least regulated highly by the government. And this kind of goes back to gaming. Boogie2988 talked about data caps. Data caps are a really slick way of doing this preferential treatment without going right out and doing it. Instead of saying, look, we don't want you using Netflix, we want you to buy our cable. They're not going to slow Netflix down, but they're going to limit your data. They know how much data it takes to watch Netflix regularly. If you watch a few hours a day, it adds up very quickly, especially if you have multiple users watching multiple things. And with those data caps that some companies have, you can run out data very quick, and some it's not even just an overage charge. Some will cut your cable off, your data off completely, and not allow you to get data after that. So I'm kind of curious of what other people think. Please make some comments in the comments section. I'd really like to see a discussion started about this. And I think the gaming community at large, not just Call of Duty community, we are heavy internet users. Most people I know use Netflix, Hulu's. We like our internet gadgets. We have smartphones, things like that. And this is going to affect us directly. And if we can get some of these companies with real financial backing to help us push for net neutrality, companies like Microsoft, PlayStation, or Sony, and even the game companies themselves saying, look, we need net neutrality. Without it, we can't provide to our customers the services that we're developing, and it also stifles our growth. And I would really like to see the gaming community get more active in this sort of political rallying for fair usage. The internet's the new roadways of the 21st century. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true. Mail. Most people don't get their... most companies would rather send you an email about their products than sending you junk mail in the mail. That's the way things are changing. So again, let me know what you think. And if you like the topic, I can go into more in depth about it. But in the meantime, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, subscribe. And in the meantime, YouTube, you have a great day.
Scratch a